Welcome to the Front Row, brought to you by the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce. In the recent past, Board of Investment of Sri Lanka has been having a discouraging track record. In today's show, it is my pleasure to be in conversation with Mr. Dumindra Rathnayake, Chairman of the Board of Investment of Sri Lanka, on the role BOI intends to play in accelerating the flow of foreign direct investments into the country and promoting exports. Dumindra speaks on how BOI is gearing itself to change to be an effective investors facilitator. Dumindra, thank you for joining us on Economy.lk. What are the measurable, effective outcomes that you wish to set for the BOI?
I think the first and the foremost question that comes out is why and what can BOI do better and how can BOI do better in bringing more foreign direct investment into the country and also to grow the export. So that's going to be the first and the most important focus that we are going to have. In fact, we have been working on a corporate plan for the BOI, and that is not just another piece of paper. It has been based on a lot of research that we have been doing to see where and how competitive Sri Lanka is in the Asian region for foreign direct investment. What are the issues we have and what improvements we can do, and then building a realistic plan on that. So that depends on many things. I mean, BOI itself, moving BOI from being a regulator to a facilitator. Focusing on the investors as a facilitator, that is not only the new investors but also the existing investors, which I call the low-hanging fruit, because we should encourage existing investors to invest more and expand their export. And then secondly, also looking at our policies internally at BOI and saying, look, is there any improvements that we can do our policies? Our policies to date, are we having some archaic policies which are not actually helping us? And this all referring to the fact that, honestly, which is obvious, BOI has not really performed well in the past 1.5 to 2 years, most probably, and that we have a better opportunity to bring more more investment. And from my involvement in the BOI, being in the previous board, one thing that I know and one thing I have seen is that the staff there, they're very good. They're very knowledgeable, they're committed. So it's not a case of staff. That's a fact, right? But then there, as I said, there's policies, as well as internal policies, as well as the government, the overall government, the framework, the policy framework. Are we actually competitive? Can we improve ourselves to be more competitive? Right. So these are the key factors that we are working on, and hopefully we will come up with the plan very soon, which we need to present to the minister, and that will set out our plan for the next 2 years, or actually up to 2020, as to how and what investments we project in bringing into the country. Then it's obviously a discussion: is it good enough or not good enough? I'm not going to give you any numbers right now because it's not yet done. But if there is a need, and if the government looks at it and says these numbers are not good enough, it's a discussion. Anything is possible in a right framework.
Yeah.
Right? That's how I look at things.
So you will be setting some measurable targets, and especially with the emphasis, like you say, that the government has on the BOI to attract those FDIs into the country.
Yes, I think the BOI has a big responsibility, because it's important that we look at it and say, look, we need to bring these investments into the country, and what needs to be done to bring that has to come out of us. It's not just only going and marketing ourselves out there, but that is also something that we have not been doing enough, right? We have to focus a budget on better marketing ourselves, reaching out, right? And also we need to. So it's a whole lot of things that we need to do. That's something that the new board definitely will, focus. And if you don't have measurable KPIs, how do you measure yourself?
Exactly.
I'm not used to that.
Prime Minister of Sri Lanka has this vision for the country to make Sri Lanka a hub of the Indian Ocean region. What is the role that BOI actually plays in this?
Yeah, I think the overall vision of the Prime Minister, if I may be I may be wrong sometimes because I have not discussed this vision with him in detail, but I think it's wound around 2 or 3 key factors. One is the industrialization and development of the Hambantota Air Seaport, which is an asset now that we have and that we should use. Then obviously looking at the port city that is coming up, converting it into a financial hub and a financial city, right? That's the second. And then thirdly, as to how we can attract investment, which is not just only manufacturing, but also that is into research and development, and the whole. It's not just the high end investors who would set up plants which would do research and development as well as innovation as well as manufacturing. So that's where I think all this big picture, BOI has a big role to play because it is investment, right? So it has to go hand in hand with the Prime Minister's vision, and here the ministry is involved in a bigger way. So if I don't go much into details, yes, there's a big role that the BOI will have to play. It is and maybe even lead in the forefront in many areas. Because finally putting the framework and the policy framework and the ground framework is the responsibility of the government. The balance actually falls in our lap.
Moving into something that you've been involved in most of your career, the role that technology plays in this whole thing. So as you see, what's the role that technology plays in the economic transformation of Sri Lanka, and how would you see the bigger picture falling into place here?
I think first of all, when you say technology, one must look at, and I think where the failure happens is that people think technology is ICT. It's not ICT. It is not only ICT. I think what we need is to focus on innovation, right? And also because if you look at in the manufacturing area, it's a more case of applying technology because we as a country, volume of manufacture is very small compared to far larger countries, and the advancement of technology in manufacturing is happening there, right? So it's an opportunity for us to grab that knowledge, right, bring and use it. And I know, I've seen recently, I visited an opening of a factory that is making tea bags. And bringing in the latest of the latest equipment to Sri Lanka for the manufacture of those tea bags, and so that is applying technology, and that is already there. There's no need for them to innovate there. But on the other areas, we have a lot of opportunity to innovate in the ICT sector, in the agriculture sector. Agriculture plays a major role in our economy yet today. And we are seeing there some innovation. If you look at Dilma, right? They've just not only selling tea bags. They've gone to tea-infused drinks. They've gone to tea-infused food, to retail, food chains. There's so much happening, but then there is still a lot of opportunity. So in essence, if you summarize the whole discussion, there is an effort by the government. In terms of innovation, there is a secretariat that has been done, coordinating secretariat that is focusing to coordinate all that. There is a responsibility in the private sector to focus on innovation and help that innovation, add value into the economy, right? Then also there's another need to drive entrepreneurship here, right? Which is also part of using technology in transforming the economy, because I've been involved with on startups and entrepreneurs for some time now, and quite a lot of time actually, and I'm amazed to see the quality of products that have come up. Some of these products, some of these startups are having world-class products, right? And they are going places. I recently met an entrepreneur who I've been working with him for some time. Who's opening up space in the Cambridge University, entrepreneur space. So which is a great victory, right? So likewise, there is opportunity. So transforming the economy using technology will actually come from innovation, right? And innovation in all areas, and also applying technology that is already innovated out there, right? Especially in the manufacturing field or even in the agriculture field. So it's a hand-holding of both
So through your leadership as chairman of BOI, how do you see this transforming through BOI and infusing this whole innovation concept into the country and into the economy?
So in terms of BOI itself, I mean, if you look at the BOI's mandate, as per the Act, it's very simple. It's to encourage investment, right, and increase exports, right? So if you look at investment, I think one of the things that we can look again, as I told you, is to focus on investments that will also go into R&D, development. You see, because we have the talent, we have good universities here, we have good and very intelligent people coming out of these universities. And also even not only that, encouraging these companies to come, maybe even with talent from abroad, maybe from the diaspora, maybe from otherwise, because you see, you just can't invite them and say you only need to employ Sri Lankans, right? It doesn't work, because we also need to bring that expertise in as well. You know, if you bring in that expertise, only that it will disseminate, right? So BOI plays a bigger role in encouraging and getting in investors who will not only set up plants to manufacture, but they will also spend in innovation, in research and development. So I think that is where BOI can play a bigger role. And also because the bigger picture of innovation goes hand holding with, you know, IP laws, protection. You know, if we don't have that area proper, nobody is going to come and innovate in our country. So, you know, that sort of is more policy making, and right. So BOI also can to some extent lead those discussions in making and assisting, you know, those things are put in place.
When you say BOI, and then you speak of ease of doing business, that's what investors are looking for. What is the role that BOI will actually play, and how much of this will depend on the effectiveness of the BOI?
BOI does play a huge role when it comes to its the investors that come into the country through the BOI. Because BOI, as I told you first, I want to see a BOI moving from a regulator to a facilitator, right? The government also has done already a lot. I mean, there's what is called a single window committee today. And the single window committee, the simple thing is that this single window committee looks at all the high valued investments that are coming into the country or proposals that are coming into the country, validate them. But in the process of validating them, all relevant agencies, including the Central Environment, the Urban Development Authority, or everybody is there in that committee. So it's like a one-stop shop going through. These are the simple things that people look for, not necessarily tax incentives, right? Yes, tax incentives do count, but it's not just that, right? You can have tax incentives and the best in the world, but you know, the ease of doing business will be so difficult. You know, you could not get electricity connection for 3 months. You know, what's the use, right? So I think it plays a huge role, and it's something that we will focus on. And starting from the fact that, as I told you, going from a regulator to a facilitator. Regulator is somebody who will approve, right, an investment and step aside, right, and monitor and control. You know, is this investor doing what he is supposed to do in the agreement? Is he conforming to the laws? Is he doing things right? That's a regulator. A facilitator is somebody who will sit with the investor and work with him to make sure that he can deliver, can do what he came to do without any hindrance. So there's a big difference in the two words. And that's where I hope to take BOI.
So great vision. We look forward to lots of good things to come. And thank you for joining us. All the very best.
Thank you very much.
You were watching The Front Row, brought to you by the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce. Under the leadership of Dumindra Rathnayake, will BOI break away from its dismal performance in the recent past? Only time will tell. The Ceylon Chamber of Commerce invites you to post your comments on the Facebook page of Economy.lk. Thank you for watching The Front Row. Stay tuned for more insightful and informative episodes.